LEGO sets have always been expensive, but recently something has caused them to seem even more expensive than they were. A lot of us serious fans are aware how, with the costs of production increasing, LEGO has raised prices on a lot of the sets they make. For some sets, this keeps them within the realm of believability for how much they include, but in others, some are just astronomically far than anyone would be willing to bother with. This is all because of perception of value being a huge discrepancy within LEGO's planning teams and the consumer. Someone's perception of value is how worth it a set is to them. Now, some sets might be just right for some people, while others might think that same set costs way too much. Others might be perceived as too expensive all around. It's a case-by-case situation. One person might live by LEGO sets needing to hit a value of 10 cents per part included. It's rather arbitrary as smaller pieces cost less than larger pieces. Those smaller pieces make LEGO sets these days seem so much more compact compared to how they used to as well, despite still being dense builds in the end. Others might be solely focused on the minifigures included. It just depends on who you ask. Of course, there are also factors at play on LEGO's end that could affect these prices, more than just production costs. For licensed sets, they have to pay for every logo, name, and actor's likeness they use. Any set could also have pieces that cost so much more to make than your typical LEGO brick, and with how many pieces that size are included can drive up the cost for a set at retail so LEGO can recover that extra expense. However, something new has popped up that's really been eating at my mind, and that's LEGO not meeting the price thresholds they've set some of their sets at. You see, LEGO sets the prices for all the sets they make before they even decide on what they're going to be, what parts they'll consist of, or what characters will be included. Because of all these, perceived value, especially for licensed themes, has been skewed far beyond we could have ever expected, and we're going to go over several instances where there's a struggle with that, and potential solutions. Although many themes are applicable, today I'm primarily going to use Star Wars as an example, with some superhero sets to back them up and help prove the point, across 3 different types of instances: false presence, size disparity, and market questionability. Let's start with false presence. This is a set where they look like they warrant their price, but come to a shaky value perception once looked into. The latest instance at the time of this video's release is the Coruscant Guard Gunship. Any fan of the prequel era of Star Wars will see this as the quintessential set to have, but it comes in a form unexpected. This is based off of a niche design only featured a few times in a couple TV shows, meaning that to a casual audience, this ship, as it appears, isn't as familiar as its original design featured in the movies. I bring this up because lots of sets that suffer from a poor perceived value tend to have some niche aspect about them. Not all, but this is one that does. Because of this, I'm certain interest isn't as high as it could be. Add that the minifig selection being inconsistent in size and context, more issues arise. For Star Wars, minifigs are a very, very big selling point. This set is $140 in the US, and it only has 5 minifigures. The quantity is only part of the issue, as the set lacks certain characters or designs to best execute the scenes the set is based off of. Some could be swapped for others, but if anything, you could have at least doubled the amount of troopers included, if not tripled them at this price. Some people will have something to say about the quality of how the troopers are executed as well. The size of the cast of this set is further punctuated by the ship's rather compact size. At 1,082 pieces, not only is there plenty of room to beef up this design, but there are also key features missing as well. That disparity between part count and price could be solved with more minifigures depending on who you ask. Compared to older versions of this type of ship, there is a very clear size disparity, despite some of these sets having a similar value as the new one if you consider inflation. This set has a false shelf presence, as its box and price imply something more than it is. Shortcomings for its size, and its lacking minifigure selection, despite some iconic choices, and it begs the question why it was priced the size it was. Another for LEGO Star Wars is the Justifier, but in this situation it actually is at a size to warrant its price if you just look at it. Part count shows otherwise, but then add that there are only 4 real minifigures included in this set at $170, and you get really curious what's going on here. Another layer to amplify this false presence for its size, it's also from only about 2 episodes or so from a spin-off cartoon of another cartoon, which means if casual fans aren't going to be watching cartoons, then they really haven't heard of this thing, and that makes its price even harder to swallow. Not to mention that this set goes head-to-head in price, yet falls short of part quantity and minifig selection to such pop culture giants as the AT-AT and the Millennium Falcon. Its false presence of size makes it appear worth its value, but shortcomings in competition being real obvious bogs down interest, especially at that price. For superheroes, we have the Hoopty from LEGO Marvel. This is the sole set that released for The Marvels, the second Captain Marvel movie. You look at this set, you see the minifig quantity, and really, everything seems quite fine. Until you find out it's $90, a price that makes it seem more than it is despite just looking at it saying otherwise. The box makes it worse, as sets with one its size are usually only around $60, even if you consider the part count. Add the fact Captain Marvel and the heroes she's joined by are nearly at the top of most people's interest, it makes you wonder who is actually going to spend that kind of money on this, despite the fact the price is really the only serious issue here. Then there's Black Panther War on the Water. The exact same issues are at play here. A set that's probably a $60 value tops, priced at $90, with characters that might not be at the forefront of people's minds. Again, this is not a bad set, if not a bit plain, but it tries to give off the false presence that it's more than it actually is. In all these situations, it's people's perception of size and familiarity making people choose other options, as they realize that the size of the packaging doesn't properly convey the value of what's being offered. For sets like the Justifier and War on the Water, looking online, both have seen 50% off discounts, at one point or another. This only occurs when a set's interest is not meeting goals for retailers, meaning people don't see it as the value they're priced at or their boxes imply. What's likely going on here is that the teams for these themes are setting a price at the level they intend to sell these sets for, but the design team only being able to make a set so big, or with so many minifigures, before it exceeds the budgets they have in place, yet opt to sell them as is, perhaps, and this is my assumption mind you, under the pretense that people will buy them anyway. For the Hoopty and the Gunship, we have yet to see how things will go at this time, but reception so far has been shaky for both, and all I've done here is reiterated things that may lead to things ending up like the Justifier or War on the Water, based on their history. Next, let's go over size disparity. This is where a set is perfectly on the mark considering all factors, but the fanbase comes across as uncertain for the set size. These sets aren't actually overpriced, but perceived value falls short anyway, so I've decided to include it in this video as well. Obi-Wan vs. Darth Vader is our Star Wars example. Now, this set has some rather large pieces, so that's going to cut into the cost, but then also these minifigs are primarily exclusive, meaning more expense in making them happen. For $50, however, fans see a gray pancake with lackluster features for its value. There have been duels like this in LEGO Star Wars at nearly half the value with the same level of functionality, if not better. If it truly has a $20 set's value and features, perhaps after cutting a minifigure or two, maybe it should have been that valuable by scaling it down to reflect that, despite the planned price threshold? For superheroes, we have the Batmobile from LEGO DC. This set comes across as a $48 value to very few, as the car doesn't come nearly close to that price at a glance. Add the minifigs just being Batman and the Joker, one of many sets that do, and one would ask what's being offered here worth that value. The Batmobile has 438 pieces, which is not nearly as terrible as one would seem. Its compact appearance might not help, but the vehicle is actually quite large. One could attribute the set's box art not truly showing the scale of the vehicle as a factor here. Superfans might also be disgruntled by its extremely close design to the Batmobile included in the Batcave shadow box, feeling so in favor of getting another unrelated design. It begs the question, if this set really has this many parts, maybe there's too much going into it? Perhaps a scale back is necessary? This is another entry in an increasing number of sets that, despite hitting marks, doesn't mean fans' perceptions of what a set like it should be warrants this price. Lastly, we have market questionability. This is where a solid set exists, but factors raise the question of what audience the set is for. Our Star Wars example is the Yavin 4 Rebel base. After all these years, we finally have a LEGO set based off this scene. Incredibly, it includes every important character in outfits we rarely ever see toys of. What's the problem, right? Well, this set has only 1,066 pieces, and is priced at $170. And while the minifig count is impressively high for a Star Wars set its size, it includes versions of characters kids won't immediately recognize without a good look, unless they're on the older side. Despite that, this set has a suggested age range of only 8 years old. The set proper has a build that 5-year-olds can build. So that begs the question, who is this set for? If a 5-year-old can build it, why aren't minifigs they'd immediately recognize included? Actually, no, better question, why is this set $170 then? Far and beyond any price range they could ever afford. And without the character or vehicle recognition, as cool as the Y-Wing is, these kids aren't likely asking for this set from their grandparents who would likely spoil them for the holidays, out of love of course. Sounds like this set would have been better suited for an older audience, yes? So why wasn't it? Heck, you could have revamped this into a $400 set that included a small army, and you would have had grown-ups running to give you money. Why does this set for really young kids cost adult money? We can say the same thing about the Iron Man armory from LEGO Marvel. You have your character recognition, which is great. It's got 496 pieces, so not at all overwhelming. Thing is, it's a near featureless display case for Iron Man minifigs. That's $90. I'm sure kids will want to have tons of Iron Man suits they can display in this thing, but that's not provided. Only a couple. What else will they do then? Roll the car around? Minifig count is solid, sure, so play with characters is there, but what then? Again, only an adult could afford a set like this on the regular, and while grown-ups might be feeling generous to pay nearly double for a set at this value should be, come the holidays, it once again begs the question, who is this set for? Only sets that suffer size disparity and perceived value really have the opportunity to be downscaled, whereas the rest suffer from being too little for too much. We have our solution for the former, but if marketing questionability and false perception are a factor here, perhaps the best solution is price adjustments before launch. With how early we are aware of what's on the horizon and their prices, there is plenty of time to make adjustments on LEGO's end based on our reaction, even if a set might not end up at the price threshold initially intended. By adjusting prices in favor of the consumer, you have a better chance at selling quantities of the product to make up for that adjustment, especially since most of these sets that need this are typically sets that don't have nearly as much licensing costs to warrant such a price tag. Maybe with the exception of the Yavin 4 base, but sometimes one might need to just cut their losses. This is more a call for LEGO to do this more regularly, as they actually have done this before. Target price tag set the Escape from the Lost Tomb from Indiana Jones at $80 despite it being very favorably priced at $40 at every other retailer, implying that the price changed along the way, despite the set certainly warranting a price tag more than that. In the end, it turned out to be an incredible value. Walmart also had the 332nd Ahsoka's Clone Trooper Battle Pack priced at $28, implying an insane price hike on the Battle Pack. Everywhere else had it listed at $20 like the previous packs had been a couple years prior, meaning a change happened along the way as well. Far enough along though that the stores are ready to carry it at that initial price. This looks much better than a clearance discount would if you ask me. What's interesting is that almost all of these struggles with perceived value plague LEGO's 18+ Adults Welcome line. We'll stick to the themes that we've been talking about today, but of sets that are in that age range. Size disparity with the helmet series that seem so small for their value. These average anywhere between $70 and $80 and they have the parts and detail to prove it, but for its size, you'll have people questioning those at every turn. False presence from all of the Star Wars dioramas. This $50 looking set is $80 somehow. This $60 looking one is $90. You're not paying for better details on the minifigs for either of these if you're curious, even though for being a luxury product like this would probably warrant that. And then there's market questionability. This set, with features and stability only an 8-year-old would need, is packed in a $550 set priced and aimed at specifically adults, built entirely around a play feature that requires you to purchase a set for 9-year-olds. You'd think it a display piece, but when it looks nothing like the actual thing, it raises an eyebrow. Especially when a fan remake uses the exact same pieces to make it accurate while still being just as sturdy. Of course, we need to remember that, at least for those sets, they are not meant for the hardcore audience. We've gone over that, and sometimes even I need a reminder. What we have here is a situation where a lot of great ideas lead to choices that seem to not be privy of a shopper's interest, in favor of doing it anyway to see what happens. And while I'm all for innovation, I think about what those sets could have been if they ended up being something else that would be worth the perceived value. I have faith in the people involved in setting these parameters, and I appreciate their willingness to take risks, but there is a breaking point. As time goes on, things seem to be pushing further and further beyond that point. Am I being too critical? Do you like some of these sets? Are there some sets you feel fit into these descriptions that you'd like to point out? You can do so down in the comments. Your comment can be highlighted for all to see by clicking the share button first and donating an amount of your choice. Your generosity supports the channel if you do. Check out other videos on LEGO Star Wars or other concerns about LEGO things on the end screen now. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Pen, and I'll see you next time.